Hi Divas, welcome to Wanda's Workbasket for all things creative and crafty with a little bit of inspiration mixed in. Just wanted to show you today, I'm going to give you some instructions on a simple pamphlet stitch. Now I know there are plenty of other YouTubers out there who have done pamphlet stitch, and we all have our own little quirks that we do about it. I start and end mine at the top because that's where I like to have my beads. Basically, I don't like the beads around out of the bottom because you put them on a bookshelf, right? You don't usually stack them up. You put them on a bookshelf. And then if you do that, the beads are in the way. If I put them around the center, then they're going to be in the way when you slide them up against another book, unless you can move the bead around to the front of the book. Okay, so that's part of the problem. They're easy to get out of the way when you're writing, even if they're at the top. You just move them out of the way to open the book. Not a big deal. So, and then I leave long tails, and that's what I use to bead. And they're automatically in there. I mean, I've used other things like jump rings and that kind of thing, and that's fine. But I find that the string is strong enough, fine enough at the top. So that's what I'm going to show you how I do today. There's a couple different variations of that. See, all the strings are at the top. This one I kind of braided a bit, or it braided itself over time, and I captured it in the belly band because at the time when I was putting it on a shelf this way, the beads would all fall down. So anyway, and I usually put some kind of a tag or something on it that I can write the date or the year on it so that it's easy to see once it's done. So this one was using a cover of planner that I had that was a traveler's notebook, and I decided I wanted to use it as a permanent journal, and I kept its own belly band on there, its own elastic belly band, but I pamphlet stitched the signatures in. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5, 6 point. Well, if you count the bottom, it's a 7 point, but a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, and I had many signatures in it, as you can see. Now, a signature, I just want to remind you, is the clump of pages that you are going to staple or sew together as one. If you would take a whole group of papers and fold it, like, okay, I'm going to take the back off of this anyway, so I'll show you. I'll show you what I'm going to use the back for in a minute. So if you were to take, well, maybe it's not going to work because of the glue at the top of this one. Kind of. All right, if you were to take a whole lump, say if you wanted all this in one book, and you were going to fold it in half and sew it in that way, you would have not the glue at the top, but see how you would have them fanning out? You would have it fanning out on the edge. You would have that all the way up, and you'd have to slice it and everything. It would be more work that way, but I will show you each signature. I have this signature. It's a group of pages, and they've been put together for a while now, so this is kind of flat. And I like the look of several different sizes of pages. You can see here that I have one sticking out over the edge. That might get trimmed off, it might not, I don't know. But you can see I have several different layers of pages that went into this signature. And I have several signatures in the book as a total. Generally, a small signature maybe about 4 or 5, no more than 6 pages at a time, you can fold and you can get a fairly even edge on it. But that's not always the case. I don't mind uneven edges to a certain extent. I like it to look like I did it uneven on purpose, not by accident. You know, when you fold that big sheaf of papers together, it kind of is all graduated and everything. It looks too perfectly bad, you know what I mean? It just doesn't look right. So anyway, these are some of the signatures I put together for this one. And I have a feeling that most of them are upside down. Yes, that was the first one, because it was a Daphne's Diary page, and it has this Daphne's Diary belongs to, and I wanted that in the forefront. I used in this one colored paper and a calendar page. Yes, the inside's going to be upside down, but I don't care. This is scrapbook paper. In here, a book page, another funky magazine or book page. This came from Art Journaling magazine, I believe, and some graph paper, a photo paper from a pamphlet, an artist pamphlet I picked up at the museum, some writing paper, another children's book page, and a coloring page that has an inspirational thing in the middle. Now, yes, this is more than 6. I get that. But again, it has uneven edges, but it looks like it's intentionally uneven, doesn't it? And this one is colored paper, cardstock, and this was a really cool cover to a tissue box. A tissues box. It's kind of fun, and I like the purple flowers of the calendar in there. Basically, and this one has some music sheet in here, music sheet that nobody wrote on yet. More like writing cardstock, more magazine pages, more coloring pages, more scrapbooking paper, and you can always make them smaller. Okay, that one has a little footsie there, but I'll put something over top of it and it won't be a problem. Alright. And I hear you say, you know, why aren't there any more pages to write in? Well, there will be. There will be plenty of pages to write in. But these are mostly, you got to look at these pages as cover, a little bit of a signature cover, and some fun pages to put interesting stuff on, like pockets and antique paper, that kind of thing, depending on your theme. And also, I'm going to put little booklets in some of them. I'm going to put writing paper over top of some of it. They're backgrounds. Most of the pages in here are backgrounds for other things that you're going to do. So that's what you're doing. You're making an interesting set of backgrounds. All right, this was a file folder, a regular file folder, manila file folder. And I bent it at 2 different places. See that? It has already the places in it where I can sew through. Already straight lines. Most of them, if you're making up your own spine, you have to make straight lines to decide how many, after you decide how many signatures go in a cover. So this one has too many signatures. There's no way. I'm like, maybe I can get one in between those. So 1, 2, 3, maybe 5. How many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have to take one out. And I like to work in uneven amounts, 3, 5, 7, 3 and 5 mostly, depending on how thick it is, because I can start with one in the center. I don't like starting in the front and then going to the back, or starting in the back and going to the front, because by the time you get to the other end, it's like squeezed. If I start in the center, then I can do 1 or 2 on each side of the center. So that's my 3 or 5, and that works out really well. Okay, that's one of the ones I want to do today. The other one is a book back. I strengthened the spine in here, and you can see me doing that in other videos this series. I put a piece of cardboard in the middle. I put a piece of interfacing, sewing interfacing in here, and I glued that down. So I left a gap in between the center section and the edges so that it has, room to fold. So this would be perfect for 3. I found these 3 little mixed media books. I have several of them, Traveler's Notebook inserts, and they fit perfectly in here, already done. So these things already done have a sewn signature in here. I'm going to show you how to sew signatures. I'm going to show you how to sew papers together. I'm going to show you how to sew things on here. But for right now, this is just the simple pamphlet stitch closing. Once you know this, then everything else can come forward from that. It's a little bit, they're a little bit taller than the center, aren't they? Yeah, but I would like the signatures just a little bit shorter at the top and bottom, but they still fit when they close the cover. So I'm going to keep it. So what I have to do, let's do this simple one first. Tools that you'll need to do this. Let me bring my little toolbox out here. Sometimes I use a buttonhole cutter, which is a little piece of wood and a very, very sharp blade on the end of, can you see the blade on the end of there? Yeah. Basically, this is the perfect size for most buttons and buttonholes, and you put the fabric in between, you put this in and you hit it at the top and it slices the buttonhole open. Sometimes I find that if I just need, I try not to use sewing things on paper, but I've been using this more more in my junk journaling than I have in my sewing kit, so it's staying in here. You'll need a large-eyed sewing needle, a tapestry needle they're called. I like to use a rounded point one. If you use one that's too pointy, it will stab things in places that, like, make new holes. You don't need it to make new holes. You need it to go through the ones that you're going to create. So I have that. I do keep a seam ripper and, okay, what is a seam ripper for those who do not sew? This is an ancient one. I've used it since, I know this is like 40, 50 years old now. So forget the lid, but it's basically, it comes like this. All right, you open it up and it has 2 levels on it. Usually this level has a little red ball or something on it. What you do is basically slip it under a seam and then you rip the threads if you make a mistake or something like that. You rip the threads out so you can re-sew it. But I use it to pick things if I've got it sewn wrong. So that's there. I don't know why I have pins in here. I rarely use them in this. This is just a little plastic lid that I put glue on if I need it. These were spines that I made in other things to designate where I'm going to punch through. Different spines for different sizes. One of them is for these. Which one is it? Is it that one? It might be. Something a little bit. I don't want to do 5 anymore. That's the perfect size for that. But I'll show you that in a little bit. Alright. I just keep my template so I don't have to remeasure anything. Alright, what else do I have in here? I have twill tape and rubber bands, which I have elsewhere. These are for making beads, these skewer sticks, so that's not it. Basically, the biggest tool you want is an awl, A-W-L, an awl, or an ice pick. It's very sharp on the one end. And this is what you're going to be using to punch your holes into things. Can you see that part? What's underneath here? That's glue brushes and paper clips, which I don't need at the moment. What I've been finding very, very useful is called binder's twine. You can get it in packs of 3 or 5 or whatever. You can get it in little packs from the dollar store. This is from Dollar Tree. I got 3 in a pack. And generally, this goes through the tapestry needle easily. It holds up real well. It goes through the beads. Now, it's a little bit thick to go through some beads, but there are lots of beads out, like wooden beads and stuff out there that have a big enough hole that this will go through. I not only want it to sew the back of the journal, but I want it to hold the beading in as well. And these, oh, okay. All right. I have binder clips, more binder clips. I need those. And this is, oh, this was a bookbinder's kit that I bought as a kit. This is a tiny little a tiny little ice pick. It has, I think I got this on Temu actually. It has a glue brush. I actually prefer a silicone bristle brush, as you probably saw in other videos. Let's see. Oh, they have some curved needles. They're good for upholstery. I'm not sure how I'm going to use a curved needle in this, but they're there. And these are sharps. All right, they're tapestry sharps, as you can see from the there. But I'm not sure I'm going to use those either because they're sharp. I just don't prefer that. All right, this is binder's twine. It's more of, it looks like it's more of a jute, more of a, it's a wax thread. That's what it is. It's a wax thread. It's really good for bookbinding if you're having trouble getting the thread to do what you want it to go through the holes and stuff. And then they have a bone folder, which is great because I ordered some bone folders from Temu and I ordered a set from Arteza. In doing stuff, that just sounds weird. Let me get this in here. Get the big, where's the big one here? In one of the last videos, when I was doing the journal backs and folding pages and using my bone folder, for some reason it got into the trash can. It just, one of the trash bags. So, anyway, this is just a pillowcase baggie, but I have a lot of extra embroidery cotton. Now again, you could get sets of embroidery cotton. This one came from Oriental Trading. Some of them came from the dollar store, okay, from Dollar Tree. And some of them came from Leftover Projects. Some of them came from the thrift store. You can pick up stuff like this at the thrift store. These go through the skinniest beads. I have some binder's twine in here too that I need to use. But some of them go through the skinnier beads, especially if you separate out. Embroidery thread is meant to be separated. There are 6 strands in one length of it, and you divide it up into 2, 3, 4 strands. Even singles for some reasons. That's binder's twine. I'm going to use that. What is this here? This is just more embroidery floss, but no, it's more of a twine. This is nice. It's white. It's kind of like it's tapestry. It's tapestry. It says Burnett Casino. That's some of the thread here. Other threads you can use anything, actually, to bind it together. I sometimes use yarn, cotton yarn. Cotton yarn has a tendency to fray and split over time, so you have to realize what you're going to be doing with it afterward. Is it going to get a lot of beading or beating? You're going to use it a lot or not? And then there is, let's see, I got this at Ollie's, cotton twine, but it's just twine. All right, that's there. These are little fuzzy yarns, little sample cotton yarns, Lion brand. I guess it's a sample color kit. And what else do I have in this basket here? I have other twine. This is an orange paper twine cording. That's good. I have Tim Holtz Ideology twine. It's more like a jute. That is in here. Let's see. For embroidery floss and crochet cotton. You can find crochet cotton in lots of different colors. This is strong enough as well to hold up. This is also strong enough to hold up. Oh, Egyptian Giza mercerized cotton. I would use this on regular bookbinding, you know, for books you want to keep. Anyway, those are some of the supplies that I use. And that's a decision. Sometimes I have to make the decision, what color am I going to use? Binder's twine comes in the white and colored, all those different colors together. Otherwise, you have some, do I want to make this more rustic? And I think I'm going to use the twine for this. If I can thread it through the tapestry needle, I'm going to use the twine for this. Just because it's more natural. Okay, that's a decision on that. For this, I don't need as much. And there's lots of purples. Purple pink with a white down the center, how about? Or green down the center. Which should I do? Green. Purple, pink, and green. So now that I've decided that for these projects, let's do the easy one first, shall we? So what I do to make my own template is first I don't like to measure. I do not like to measure anything. I will measure the booklet that I'm putting in. Basically, actually, you should measure the spine, which in this case is the exact same thing. Can you see? I keep wanting to do it closer to me, but the camera is not that close to me. Basically, you're supposed to measure the spine. Okay, I don't measure. And this is part of the reason I used the interfacing that had the grid on it, because this will be very helpful in figuring out where I want to make my holes. So first of all, first things first, I have to cut the spine length, but not the width just yet. I need to mark the width. Save that. I don't need all this width, I just need it wider than that is. So, alright, I just need it wider than that base. That's that. Alright. So now I need to find the exact center. Let's bend it to find the center. Like I told you, I don't like measuring if I don't have to. It's called make it simple. Keep it simple. And that's when we need our bone folder. Alright, that gives a nice line, nice crisp line. There's your center. And I can't really well find the center too well in this without a ruler, and I don't have one with me. I use a quilter's ruler mostly because you can see through it to each side. But what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to just use some graph paper. Now, get off of me. I'm going to use some graph paper. You don't have to glue it down to anything. And this will keep my lines nice and even. All right. They don't make graph paper on cardstock. Or I'd use that. So, there you go. Right down the center. That's what we want. Okay. Now, I can draw a line right down the center. Right down that line, and it would help if I had my glasses on. I have the center here marked, and basically this is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, So it would be like 3 on each side. No, it's not quite the center here. 1, 2, 1, 2, and a skosh, 1, 2, and a skosh. So this is pretty much the center. I like how I do that. It's pretty much the center. I want only 3 signatures on here. So I'm going to do, like how I didn't do this ahead of time. So I kind of want it down in the middle between these two, because these are the edges, the very edges of it, and I want it in the middle. So basically, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to find the center that way again. Find the edges of here. That's going to be the center. What I am going to do is take this, my piece of cardboard, and make a line down here. Make a line down here. Because that's where I'm going to sew my signature. So for this one, it's going to have a center and 1 signature on either side. I have 3 of these booklets I'm going to put in there. Okay, so I'm basically going to do the same thing on here. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to draw a line here. And you're doing this so that when you put the holes in the signatures and put the holes in the back of the book where you're going to sew through, they will be able to line up. Come on now. This is not going over the glue really well. You can use a pencil instead of that. Now I already have a whole bunch of lines going this way. What I want to do is I want to find the center. So I'm going to fold my piece of paper or cardboard or whatever you're using. And that now is my center line right here. I'm going to mark it out on this. This is my center line right here. Okay? And then between the two, I'm going to fold it from the top down to that line. And that's a sewing line. Oop. Gotta get it right or it won't be. Gotta get it right on there. Then I'm going to do the same thing to this side. And apparently it doesn't always land on the right part of the graph paper, so that, you know, Okay, but it does land directly on here. So that's the 3. It's easy to see here. I have this one, and what I didn't do halfway between. I did sort of to the top and sort of to the bottom. Okay. All right, so I didn't completely do that. I did another one toward the top and another one toward the end. Since this one is going to take a lot of beating, a lot of traffic, a lot of action, what I'm going to do is do that same thing. I'm just going to mark a line. I need to have it below the cardboard and, let's see, sort of above the cardboard here too. Either that or I'd have to move these lines down further, which I could do. Unless you have one directly in the center, you can do whatever you want in the middles. I mean, these are junk journals. They're not going to be exact. So just, you know, it's you having fun. Forget the rules. Just it's you having fun. That's the important part. And I had done so many of these in one night. Those candy boxes, and I'm going to be doing that again, that I got to the point where it's just like, you know, I'm just going to be, I thought I wrote on this too. I guess I did not. Then I'm just going to put them wherever I want them, you know? That happens. I gotta mark this because the thing is, if I don't mark this, this is gonna be torn through. If I do this for more than one book, I'm gonna tear through it. I need some heavier cardstock, some heavier cardboard to do that for me, to be strong for me. Now be careful, because you do want to get these straight enough. And if it's going to be imperfect, maybe you want to make it intentionally imperfect so that it's like, oh, I meant to do that. I meant to do that. Why not, right? How much I want to admit that I don't do it perfectly, I don't know. But I want you to feel like you don't have to be perfect. You can make mistakes. You can make, if you make one mistake, make a few more. Make it look intentional. Make it look like you meant to do that. Like the pages, like the variety of page widths, so that it will look like it's supposed to be that way. And then people will think you're clever and creative, and it's like, just fixing a mistake, but they don't have to know that. I'm doing it on cardboard because I need something heavier to punch through. Oops. And it's helpful if you use a real ruler so that you don't slide all over the place. Now, where these intersect is where I want to punch my holes. Both in here and in here. Okay? So that's why I have this first. All right. All right. My husband made this gizmo for me. Now, you don't have to use this type of machine. You can use an old phone book. You can punch through. Well, I do have several phone books that I can use too. Anything that you can open up and it lays and it cradles. It's called a cradle. It's called a book cradle. That it cradles the book open so that when you punch through, it's going to go straight through. This is just some 3D printed stuff with some balsa wood underneath there. And if I really had a tall thing, I have some stands that can hold it up in place. But right now, first I need to do it in the back of this. And that is going to be more difficult. You can't cradle the back of a book in here. So I need to, let me see. I just got this sketchbook at the thrift shop yesterday. I'm going to use that this time. I'm going to do the book first. Now this is going to take a little bit of oomph, but basically you take the ice pick and shove it down in the center until you get a hole all the way through to the other side. Okay, you peeking out there? And you're going to have a hole in your book wherever you're pushing it down, and that's why you have a cushion underneath it. You don't want to go through your table, your tablecloth, whatever else is in here. So the book backs need to stay fairly straight when you're pushing through. All right, and here, same line. I'm going to have to put a little more glue underneath that. And I wasn't doing that in the very center, so that's why it didn't go through quite right. Did this one go all the way through? Yes, it did. So this will be a 5 signature. It really only needs to be a 3, but I know that since I'm going to be using it heavily, or it will be used heavily because they are sketchbook type things, multimedia stuff that are going in here. I'm going to be opening and closing, that I thought I would do that. See, now you can see the holes on the back of the book. And, alright, I should stop now and say that I like this rugged look. Okay? I like the backs, the stringing, to be shown. So what I do, like I showed you in the others, you can cover over the string. It depends. See, you have to decide now whether you are going to cover your book first before you sew your signatures in. If that's the case, then you're going to have the string on the outside unless you put something across the back of it as well. If you want the stringing completely covered and the signatures will not be in your way, you can put the signatures in first and then redo your cover. You see what I'm saying? And you'll see as I go along. For this set, I'm going to be doing the covers after signatures. So that's what's happening with this set. Now I need to take each of the booklets that are going to go inside, and that's when I'm going to use the cradle. Each of the booklets and this thing. Now these little notebooks that I'm using are from Carpe Diem. They're traveler's notebooks, blank mixed media insert. One insert with 10 pages. It's 310 GSM recycled silk linen paper. So I find that these do not soak through. Like I said, this book is going to take some beating because it's mixed media. So it's going to take gesso, it's going to take paint, it's going to take glue, it's going to do all kinds of things. And it's going to be opened and closed often. And actually, I am going to save these plastics, maybe cut the bottom off or something. I'm going to use these as envelopes in a later journal. And these things, I can cut the Carpe Diem thing off of it and use that as some sticker type material. For this cardboard, you only have to go down through the center because you're only doing one booklet at a time, one signature at a time. Use the whole thing for the book as a whole, but you only have to do one at a time because you're only punching through the book one at a time. So I'm going to go through the same holes. It says here in fine print. I really had to drill through this one because it is just not, it's thick, it's sewn, it's not cooperating otherwise. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not standing up either. So that's, oh, there it went through. There, I felt it. I felt it hit the balsa. There you go. In the center. And that's why it's a cradle. There, I felt that go through. You really have to push hard, especially at the top and bottom. It was easier in the center holes than on the top and bottom holes. Okay, so I have one done. I gotta do the second and the third. It's good this one's only getting 3. Like I said, you know, I do this because some people make it look so easy. It's like, just do this, just do that, just do this. Tutorials, and that's wonderful, and everybody learns from that. But Wanda's Workbasket, we keep it real. We keep it real, folks. It's not always easy. It's not always. Simple. It's not always. And, you know, I'm not the strongest person in the world. My daughter can lift. She can lift and do all kinds of wonderful athletic things. I cannot. They were helping me last night get some more of the crafty items up into my art barn office. All right, that was not easy, and I have one more to go. Alrighty, and of course you're talking heavy mixed media paper here too, so that's part of the challenge here. So, and I'm not standing up, putting my whole weight on it, and I'm a weakling to begin with. So the rest of them are going to look like a breeze compared to this. Trust me. The other one I do with the scrap papers is going to go boop, 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 boop. Pop, 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 pop. I have others of these little booklets. They came with like art kits. and I want to use them. But I like having them bound together. So I'm not going to do too many of these. All right, I'm going to take the template out of there. All right, I'm going to ream the holes a little deeper. I probably am not going to put beads on this because maybe I'll put a few. Maybe I'll wait till I'm finished with using the book before I put beads on it. That's probably more likely what I'll do. Because this needs to be, and it will be laying flat, but whew. Okay, so now I have 3 signatures with the holes in them at the right places, and I have the back. All right, where these are going to go in. And I told you before, I'm going to put the center one in first. Some people like to put the front one in and then do the other 2. Some people like to put the back one in and then do the other 2. I like to put the center in and then go to either side. It just feels more balanced that way. It still makes it a little challenging at the end, but there it is.